All right. Well, good morning, guys. I am so glad that you guys are here today and ready to kick off the day together. I know that us being able to start our mornings and get our heads in the right place is key. And so I hope that you guys find these useful. Please share your feedback and your thoughts. And, as I've been saying, we're building a new habit here. So I encourage you to write into the chat or to actually take notes, right? It's not that anything I'm saying is rocket science, but it's the fact that the more you write it down or repeat it, whether you comment it in your chats, or maybe you make a post surrounding the ideas that we talk about. Whatever your aha moment is, if you write it down, it's going to stick with you a lot more and just become something that you take more action with, right? This is proven over time. And so I hope that you guys take advantage of that. And even just, post that you're on a mindset call. So I was saying this the other day, but really, if you are 10% ahead of someone else, you are considered an expert in that field. So all of us here are going to be mindset and personal development experts because we're actually taking time out of our day to start it this way. So I'm glad that you're here. And I was just kind of going through and making notes of different topics that I'd love to kind of dive into that I think are related to building success, creating belief in yourself, being an entrepreneur, just all of the elements. And so I hope that this deep dive is valuable to you. If you feel like we're going too slow, let me know. I appreciate your guys' insight and feedback, but today I thought we could talk a little bit about building confidence because to be successful with anything, to be, step into leadership, I think we really need to build confidence in ourselves. We need to have confidence in what we're offering to other people. And so I think that God has given us the power of having some influence, right? Whether it is your children in your home that you influence, whether it is the friends in your life you influence, whether it is your social media network that you're influencing, we all have impact in some way, in some capacity, with some network, whatever it is that you've created. And, we're in a position where we can build our networks, we can connect with more people. We talked yesterday about really how we can add value to other people. And I think the reason why we don't step out there and add value more frequently is because we do lack confidence in ourselves. We second guess ourselves. We don't know. What we have to offer. And so it's easy for us to feel like, oh, well, it's just, I'm little old me. I don't really have, how am I going to make a big impact? How am I going to make a difference? Um, they don't want to hear from me. And again, it comes down to these limiting beliefs that we start to speak over ourselves, saying like, oh, well, I don't have much to offer. And so when we focus on building confidence, we can do that in so many ways where we know that we have more to offer. And so I wanted to kind of start off with asking this question. Like, what would you do if you had unstoppable confidence in your ability to lead and influence others? Like, I'm sure each of you can think of someone who you admire, who you feel like, oh, like I would love them to be my leader, or I wish I could lead or, be this kind of person. We all follow someone on social media who's super confident, super comfortable. You probably know everything about their life. You follow them, and we are in this position where we feel like, oh, well, they've got it more together. And really, it's probably just the fact that they had the courage to be confident in saying, I'm going to talk about my life. I'm going to talk about, what works for me. I'm not going to worry about what other people think. I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me. And so I just hope that you guys realize that you do have everything that it takes, but maybe not the confidence. But that's something that we can all build. So, what would you do if you had unstoppable confidence, though? I want you to actually really reflect on that and think for a moment. how would it shift the way that you operate in your day to day? Would your personal interactions with other people change? Would your social media feed look different? And if you feel free to share or comment, if you can think, if you can visualize what life would look like if you had this confidence, think about how you would see yourself operate. I feel like you'd almost see yourself sit up a little bit straighter, put your shoulders back, step into that power pose of like, I've got something to offer to the world today, right? And I truly believe that we're supposed to have that feeling, right? It's like that phrase, you get out of bed and her feet hit the floor and the devil shakes, right? It's like you're about to make big moves today. You're about to make big things happen. People need what you have to offer. Absolutely change the world in many ways. My social media would be a lot more consistent and bold. I will share my heart without fear. Yeah, absolutely. So, when we think about there's so many people in life that you have probably followed their stories. Maybe it's a celebrity, maybe it's some motivational speaker or someone that inspires you. Maybe you've just heard a story of someone, and I love hearing and reading in personal development when they dissect stories of people's lives and they talk about, here's the illustration of how someone began to implement this or the result that they took from it. And they said it was because of this trigger. And so Richard Branson is someone that most of us know as like one of the most successful people in the world. And it was interesting that when I found out that he actually had dyslexia. And we all have our quirks. We all have our little things that make us insecure. And I think that would be a huge one, right? People that I know that have dyslexia and the way that it impacts their confidence, even at school, to be able to learn things. They don't like to ask the questions that they could ask because they don't want to appear like they didn't know the information, or they don't want to read out loud because people are going to notice that this is an area that they're not strong in. And so to put yourself in a position of influence where you've got more eyes on you, if you have those, any kind of issue that makes you insecure, it's like putting the spotlight on, and all of your flaws could show, and that can make a lot of people intimidated. But he was told, because he had dyslexia, like, you're never going to amount to much. People don't want to hear from you. And yet he built this empire, where he took bold risks. He put himself out there. He didn't let the nerves get to him. And so one of my thoughts is that really confidence isn't something that you're born with, right? So, like, sometimes we feel like we're supposed to have this confidence, but it's not something that we're born with. It's something that comes as we take action in our life. Action cures fear. And so that needs to be that's a standard of something that we all need to know to our core, is that action cures fear. And so if we want to move forward confidently in life, we have to just take action, despite feel the fear and do it anyways, so that we can move forward in that way. And so if we know that it's not something that we're born with, but it's something that we can develop, then that's pretty exciting, right? And I mentioned the other day, like, we can learn anything that we want to learn. You can go on YouTube and search, how to build confidence, and there are a million different personal development, motivational videos that you could watch that helps to kind of rewire your brain so that you hear repeated the things that you need to accept. And if we don't put ourselves in an environment where we're hearing those things, then we probably don't think about them as much, which is exactly why we do this call, is to get on here and to start to think about things in our life differently, and to just stop and analyze how we react in certain situations, why we do or don't do certain things. And so when we stop and analyze our lives, it's like, why don't we act with confidence? There's some girls you could probably think back to, like, your high school days, of some girl that could wear a paper bag and be so confident, right? It's like it didn't matter what she wore. Her outfit may not have been the most, fashionable, but she wore it like it was the fashion because she had the confidence. So I think confidence really is our belief in our ability to succeed and to make an impact. So when we recognize that we have the ability to impact others, that's the first step. And there really is like a lot of psychology behind it. And this is the same thing when I went through for working with kids and becoming a teacher. It's my job as a teacher was to help them build confidence in themselves, build confidence in their skills and ability and the things that they can do. And so um, there's this theory called the confidence competence loop. And it's kind of like how competence is what you know, confidence is you act how you know, right? And so they're actually two separate things. But the more you act, the more skilled you're going to become and the more confident you're going to feel, right? Practice makes perfect. And so if we know that we can, it's kind of the concept of fake it until you make it. And I chose years ago to switch that to say, faith it until you become it. I know what goals I'm setting and I know that I want to get there. I don't necessarily know how to get there. I maybe I haven't been there before, but I know that I will get there if I have the mindset and I'm willing to take the action. So faith it until you become it with the expectation that you're going to get there, right? Because again, our thoughts become things. Our thoughts are what drive us forward. And if we think we can't, or we think we can, we're halfway there. We're right. So we can often go through this imposter syndrome of feeling like we are a fraud. We don't really know what we're doing. Or we can take this faith it until you become it perspective, where we're going to step out and we're just going to take the action and we're going to do it until we get better at it. And we're going to tell ourselves that we're going to be amazing at it and we're going to step forward in that way. So, there's a lot of people in life who have felt like they don't belong. They don't know what they're doing. They feel like an imposter, right? But they still create an incredible legacy because they take action and step forward with it. So, if I were to ask you one area of your life where you've experienced self-doubt, is that something that, what comes to mind? What circumstance, what experience, what time in your life did you experience some sort of self-doubt? I'm gonna give you a minute. I think the way I interact with others would change. I feel like I question and doubt myself a lot, so unlimited confidence would change so much. Yes, Tony Robbins is great. I compare myself to others too much. I want to be where the top leaders are. I need confidence in myself to stay in my lane. The imposter syndrome is so real. Being a mom, that is a good one, right? Being a mom, we experience this self-doubt. But do we give up because of it? Or do we say, I'm gonna have to figure it out? And we just start taking the action, right? We learn by trial and error. We have moments where we feel like a complete failure as a mom. I handled that situation poorly. I lost my cool, whatever it might be. Yeah, when I lost my dad. Yeah, you start to feel like, how can I do this on my own? When I found out my dad adopted me and wasn't my biological dad. Oof. Yeah, I can completely understand that, right? Would shake your whole world, make you consider everything differently. Being a wife and having my husband without a consistent job. Yeah, so we fear, how are we going to provide? How are we going to manage? And so if we take this area and we say, I know I have doubt here, and we know what's going to be necessary is to take action to move beyond that place. So fear has a role in our life. It's not like it's not useful. It's just fear can derail us. It can take us out. It can cause this analysis paralysis where we sit in this state of fear, right? But we have to be in that mindset of we're going to feel the fear and we're going to do it anyways. We're going to take the action and step forward. And So we fear lots of different things, right? Maybe you feared failure. That's the easy one. But oftentimes we also really fear success. We fear rejection. We fear criticism, right? Drop me a one in the chat if you're like, I care too much about what other people think. Like, we all have those moments too. And maybe it's specific people. Maybe it's not everyone in your life, but there's some people in your life that you're really worried about what they're going to think of you. You're worried that they're criticizing you and judging you in their mind, you know? You get afraid to put yourself out there, or to speak your mind even, right? Oftentimes we keep our opinions to ourselves because we're so afraid of what someone else is going to think. So, um, how can we overcome the fear? How can we cancel out those limiting beliefs and get rid of them? I know we've been kind of talking about the same things a lot this week, but I thought we really need to dive deep to understand and analyze how our brain is working, because oftentimes we don't realize that this is how our brain is working, that this is what we're kind of processing through. And so we've got to be able to take hold of our thoughts and shift our way of thinking. And sometimes we have to kind of force ourselves down that path. It's that whole fake it or faith it until you make it, become it, and that takes um, having a level of confidence that we may not feel to our core. But when we start operating in that place of confidence, walking with an air of confidence, it starts to shift things for us. So again, there's so many people in life, entrepreneurs that you can look at, people that have been successful. Um, I know like J.K. Rowling's, who wrote Harry Potter. There was an element of him attempting and trying to believe that, or that she can build this successful business, but was rejected by, I don't know, 15 different publishers or something like that. Right? Imagine getting rejected over and over and over, and you keep going back and saying, no, I believe in myself enough. Do you have that kind of confidence today? Right? That when people turn you down and they tell you you're not capable of it, how many times would you turn around and go and try again? Because I think far too many of us would give up far too easily. And again, I'll share that verse that I shared yesterday, that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. He's given you everything that you need, but you have to tap into that. You have to choose to operate in that place. So if you take your fears and, write them down, then you have the opportunity to reframe them. And we were talking about this of like, I remember doing these burning your fears, right? And you take your fears and you write them down. And so it was one year that I decided, before I burned these fears, I was going to take them and write them down and then write the opposite of those things and speak life into it's going to be the opposite of that. That verse is in 2 Timothy 1 and 7. I got a sweater made with that that verse on it. It's my favorite. Um, and so, we know that we have it within us. We can use our logical mind to look at things. We can use our logical mind to look at our fear and really like, give ourselves a little wake-up call. If you were encouraging someone else and they tell you, if your child tells you about the fears that they have, you would like shut them down right away. You would overcome that. You would tell them that they're capable of more. But yet sometimes we just need to do that for ourselves. You need to look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself what you're working towards, right? Remind yourself of who you are and whose you are. You weren't created to play small in this world. You were created to be different. So if we take our fears and we write them down, what's the opposite of that? Like, we write down our fear, and what's the worst case scenario? Like, allow yourself to feel the fear for a minute. What is it that is the worst thing possible that could happen if your fear really was a reality? What's the worst case scenario? And then take that and reframe it with truth. Again, speaking out affirmations over yourself, reminding myself of who God created me to be. That's, for me, a huge part of it. It's to say, I am capable. I am prepared. My message is valuable. I am valuable. I have something to offer to the world. I'm capable of connecting with people. I'm capable of speaking with influence. I'm capable of inspiring someone else. You need to tell yourself that because you do. You have a light inside of you. You have a gift inside of you that is unique to you. And that is your gift to the world. And that is your light that you get to shine in this world. And if you play small, you're keeping it to yourself. And how selfish is that? And I love to think about the concept of like back in the day before there were lights, and they would have these candles and they would cover them with clay pots to protect the light from going out. And the concept of, um, cracked pots allow the light out. And so it's okay to have your story, to have your fears, to have the bad experiences maybe that happen to you in life because they're going to reframe the way that you think about life. It's going to give you more, maybe more empathy, more understanding, more insight as to how other people might live. If you don't know worst case scenario, you don't necessarily appreciate all the best parts of yourself too. So take your fears, recognize why they're so makes you so fearful, and reframe it with truth. And then speak that reframed belief to someone else. So if you have a fear, I want you to try that right now. Take your fear and reframe it with truth. And I want you to write a truth statement into the chat if you're bold enough to, right? What's an affirmation that you can speak over yourself today? And we can encourage each other by speaking an affirmation. And if you think about speaking an affirmation over someone else in this group, you probably need to be saying that to yourself, but maybe it comes to you more easily when you think about speaking life to someone else. If you're here and you want to grow in your leadership, encouraging others is such a huge, powerful part of it. But we can practice with ourselves. We can encourage ourselves. Yes, you are absolutely worthy of success. We need to hear that. Just like I said yesterday when my mom used to say to me, Barb, you have so much potential. We need to hear those things. So take time to speak that out, to be bold.
I unmuted myself there for a second. I'm sorry. I was
Okay?
hunting. I wanted to see, like, oh, how can I put my hand up? But it's been a
Yes, no,
while.
I love it. Please jump in and share. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I've been doing this a lot lately for to quit my husband or my daughter. My daughter works for Bejor, and so she's working for the PSWs. And there's a lot of people that are in need that call the office every day. And so she calls me every day at lunch, and she gets back to the phones and she goes, "Oh, there's like 15 messages," and she never knows what it's going to be like when she answers that phone. And there's a lot of people that are in help, and I reassure her. I said, Lindsay, you need to be the guiding light for them. Because she'll get depressed a little bit because their burdens go onto her, and I've said, Lindsay, it doesn't matter what you're doing, their lives are in worse off than what you are. I said their loved ones are hurt or sick, and they're depending on you and the services to help them out, and they feel defeated. And I said, if you can just take that deep breath and say, okay, here we go, and just help them as much as you possibly can, and don't let that get you down. And she always seems to go back to those phones you know a, a different outlook. It's just like the same thing for my son. He gets so mad at work sometimes, and I've said, work is what you make it. When you walk into that room, if you're going to be miserable, it's going to be a miserable atmosphere. You have to change your mindset before you walk into that room. And if you're going to go in there with a positivity or, confidence, and say, this is going to be the best day ever,
Yeah.
it generally is. And it shifts their moods. Um, Another thing for my husband, it's always, oh, we can't afford that, right? you
Mm.
And I said, no, 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 no. You never put, we can't afford that out into the universe.
Yeah.
What it is, you need to shift that mindset because I said, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Mm.
You know, you could go to this is just saying scratch ticket. You could go get the last Nevada ticket or something like that. Win $400. You don't know where you're going to be for tomorrow, right? And then I also say too, and if you want something bad enough, you're saying like we just went to Cuba recently, and my husband's saying, "Oh, I'm never going back to Cuba. I don't like it. It's if I can't go on a vacation and it's going to be a nice vacation, I'm not going." And I said, well, stop and just say, this year I'm going to Jamaica. And, have that faith, as you're saying, that we're going to make it. So it's like it's put into plans. We're going to provide for it and we're going to make it. So it's totally 100% shifting your mindset, like as you're saying, and attitude and everything, and just don't get defeated, because as soon as yesterday you were talking, and every time I just can hear Mal Robbins going 5 4 3 2 1,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I so much because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I don't want to go down the wrong way, because then the depression starts. And
Yeah.
so I really do that. It's like stop that thinking, 5 4 3 2 1, bump, change your
Yeah.
mind. So yeah, that's all I got.
I love it. Thank you for that reminder too. It's true. Like sometimes we literally have to just count ourselves down and not even give ourselves a minute to sit, more than 5 seconds to sit in that feeling because we get to choose our perspective. We get to choose to rise above and we have to speak life. I think I'm going to take a whole day on just us diving deep into speaking life because that we don't realize how powerful it is the way that we choose to think. And then when we speak that out there, it changes everything. And so whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so that's exactly it, right? It's like you have to catch yourself, cancel, cancel, cancel. No, I'm not going to think like that. I'm going to know that I can make these things happen. And I'm going to start speaking it as if it's my reality, even when it's not yet. I am so blessed and thankful that it's happening, right? I'm in the process of becoming. We're not allowing ourselves to think that we can't or we won't or we don't have or, right? Like that is all lack thinking. And we're choosing to step into a place of abundance thinking, of a growth mindset, of stepping forward in life. So I love those examples, and it's easy, like for your daughter, when we're in an environment where we're surrounded by negativity it can completely take us out of the game. And if we don't stop by creating a firm foundation, right? And this is like rooting yourself in good things, in having that strong foundation that I shared a picture. I'm going to have to look for it back. But I shared a picture of a tree that had really, really deep roots. And it actually was on the edge of the water. And what happened was that the water ended up washing away all of the earth underneath this tree. But this tree is still thriving because its roots are like a couple feet deep. And you just see this massive, healthy tree sitting on this bed of roots, but it's not getting shaken. It's not getting taken out by the storms. And even though the ground around it doesn't even exist, that tree has strength and can stand because of the roots that it has established. And so we have to root ourselves in a positive mindset. And that's why we're doing this every day, so that we can build a really strong foundation that we can flourish in and on. Um, okay. So I love that. Now we've kind of reframed our truths of what, yes, we are capable. And so now how are we going to go out there and share it with the world? We have to have authentic influence. I know that each and every one of you that's here wants to be able to make a difference. You want to help more people. You want to inspire more people. You want to encourage and be that person that people want to spend time around. So, how do we build that influence with people? I think that it's really important to have a foundation of trust. I think it makes an impact when we are a person who operates with empathy, right? when we stop and we listen to people, if we talk over everyone and we always think that we need to have the last word, people don't feel as valued when they're around us, right? That your story is always more important. That's not the atmosphere that we want to create. So I think when we build trust and empathy, when we can serve others, when people feel served, they come back, you know? And so again, I've shared with you guys my very favorite personal development leadership expert is John Maxwell. And I made him one of those powerful influences in my life. And the amount of information and knowledge that I gleaned from him and the way that I allowed that and I had to work at it to be able to shift my mindset. And it's still a work in progress, right? We're never going to have arrived, unfortunately. It's still always going to take work. And so, anyhow, but John Maxwell is a leadership expert and he has built influence by adding value to other people. And if you listen to him, that's what he's talking about is how are you going to get up and go and add value to people today? What are you going to do that's going to make them want to come back for more? How are you going to lead with integrity? That matters because that leaves a lasting impression on people. And there's, a psychology again, like the way our brain works, the psychology of influence is there's this element of like reciprocity where you're going to give something and you're going to get something. And so you need to give value first, right? That's what's going to help people. Again, they want what we have. And we have to consider ourselves an authority. We have to position ourselves as being very knowledgeable. And this is the same, like I said at the beginning, we are only need to be 10% ahead of someone else for us to be an expert in that area. That's crazy, right? Like, what are you an expert in? Charlene's an expert in knitting. I see her over there working on a project that I wouldn't know how to do, and so she may not feel like she's an expert. She could respond to me and say, "Actually, I just learned how to make a stitch yesterday. This is my first project I've ever made." It doesn't matter. She's still 10% ahead of where I am. And so she's an expert. I could ask her to teach me how to knit, even if she just learned 10 minutes ago, right? We just have to take the knowledge that we're gaining and find a way to step forward and share that value and show people that we have that knowledge. So that's why I'm saying to you, taking taking a picture of you being on a Zoom, talking about how you get in a space where you hopefully will be interacting and sharing a lot of what it is that you have to offer to the world and, encouraging each other in here and practicing that. You could take a quote from, it doesn't have to be from this call, but from something that you've learned in your life or something that you've learned from experience, and you could make a post about that. And that would draw people in. Maybe it's you taking the time to actually look at personal development, and so you're sharing a post that's on Instagram. I had someone message me the other day and was like, "You always have the best quotes on Instagram." And I'm like, I don't, that's the kind of stuff that I've cultivated into my news feed because I choose to surround myself with positivity and belief and faith-based thinking. And so that's the overflow now that comes out of me, that I want to come out of me. I have to be intentional about it. I can choose to watch, reels about funny animals all day long, but me sharing that isn't necessarily adding value, although it might bring someone a laugh or a smile. That's a good thing. But if I can help people shift their way of thinking by sharing a quote that has shifted my way of thinking, then again, that's a way that we're passing. We're not even the ones that are giving the knowledge, but we're passing on and we're highlighting the fact that, hey, I choose to invest in reading this kind of content, in viewing the world like this. So, and then consistency. If we want to have influence, we have to be consistent with what we're doing. And you have to choose your lane. It doesn't mean you have to be consistent at everything, right? And I say that to give myself a little bit of grace too. Social media is not my area. I am not the most consistent person on social media. And I can beat myself up, and I do a lot of the time. But when it comes to the things that matter to me, to being on a mindset Zoom like this is where I'm consistent. I'm going to show up every time there's an event. I'm going to show up every time there's a training. I'm going to, plug in and do my personal development on a consistent basis because that is forming who I am. My social media isn't the focus for me. But for some people that may be. If you're building your business on social media, you have to be consistent with that. So choose your area of where it's going to make the most impact for you and choose to follow through on your commitments in your lane. So if you think about your own personal influence, and if you were to take an inventory of how you impact other people, what would you say is your kind of sphere of influence? Like what is the thing that you know that you can be an expert at? Oh my goodness, my favorite John Maxwell book, I would probably have to say The Five Levels of Leadership. That was like my biggest aha moments in life of realizing that I could lead myself and I could grow my leadership before I even had a team. So, but I love all of his stuff. I actually have a John Maxwell Bible that's sitting here beside me, and I love it. It's like he went through the whole Bible and he pulls out these leadership examples from people in the Bible, and I have aha moments all the time, and I love it because I think Jesus was the greatest leader that ever led, that ever walked this earth. And we can follow all these personal development, motivational speakers, leadership experts. But what's interesting is that the truths are the truths are the truths. And the things that you hear come out of Tony Robbins' mouth are pretty much like biblical truths, something that Jesus walked out in his life, and it's just been kind of reframed in a different way, right? Everybody's taking the same truths about how we operate, about how our brain works. Like the facts are the facts, and you can rehash it and flip it and say it in a different way. But um, anyways, I just choose to enjoy the perspective that John Maxwell takes and the angle that he comes from. He reminds me more of like an old grandpa. I'm like an old school. I love those old speakers and the way that they convey things and they speak from the heart. And um, anyhow, so yes, I'm just reading through the chat comments to see if I missed anything. Yes, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Speaking these truth affirmations, I am a great leader and influencer. You can do hard things. Anything is possible. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. I'm reminding myself of this constantly because I am worthy of success and abundance in life and wealth. That's right. And I'll tell one of the things I talk about this a lot. So you may have heard me say this before, but it's the concept of we can put out our hands like this and ask God to bless us, and he wants good things for his children and he'll bless you. But when you allow yourself to be like this, of like, bless me so that the blessings can flow through me into other people around me, that is really powerful. Right? We're meant to be abundant so that we can be God's hands and feet in this world. I believe it's not just for me to like blow money on myself having all the fancy things. What if there's someone that God is waiting to bless who's financially struggling and he's going to put them on my heart? And I have to be in a place of abundance for me to be able to give back, right? If I'm struggling for my family, I can't really think beyond that. And so that's why we need to desire abundance and desire to be successful in life and to create wealth because it's a way that we can make more of an impact. I always start the morning by sharing a positive post on social media. Yeah, that's a great way to start the day. Okay. So, as we're building authentic influence and we think about what we have to offer when it comes to our influence, we think about what's our current sphere of influence. Maybe it's with your team, maybe it's with your customers, maybe it's with your social media network, maybe it's with your coworkers, maybe it's with your children. Okay. We all have an area of influence. So, what's one way that you can support people or serve other people within your sphere of influence this week? And it can be something, like you said, Lynn, of sharing a positive post on social media. It can be that simple. We don't have to overcomplicate it. So if we decide that we're going to be confident and we're going to, invest in our thinking and we're going to speak to ourselves the way that we want, others to speak to themselves. We speak to ourselves the way that we would speak to someone else, maybe, because if you would be kinder to someone else or more encouraging to someone else than you tend to be to yourself, then you got to shift that. So we are fearfully and wonderfully made. I love that you shared that. Um, that is a truth that we can speak over ourselves. You are wonderfully made. You are made for a purpose. I am bold and courageous. I am equipped for every good work is another verse that I really like. You know, God didn't bring you to it to not take you through it. The things that he has prepared us for, we don't even know what it is that he's preparing us for, right? Many of you guys, some of you know this story, but we moved 4 years ago across the province. And it was like a completely, it was such a God thing. If I tell you the whole story, it'll take too long. But anyways, I knew that God was speaking to me and telling me that we were supposed to move. And so we decided to just trust him. And I would get up and I would pray and I would say, okay, Lord, I will go where you send me. Like, what do you have for me? And so we moved 6 hours across the province from where we used to live. Didn't know a soul out here, didn't know the area at all. There was literally zero sense to us coming out here. We didn't know why, but there was this calling, this pull, and a peace that I can't explain. And so we came and looked at this property, and I stepped out onto the driveway and was just flooded with this wave of peace. And I was like, this is it. We hadn't even been in the house yet, right? It wasn't my dream home. It was everything we needed for our family, everything we'd been praying and asking for. But we had no idea why we were coming out here. And I remember wrestling like us driving back home after we came to view the house. We drove 6 hours for a 25-minute showing because it was during COVID. That was all you got. And we got here and I just was like, okay, like God, why do I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be? Like this logically makes no sense on paper. And we moved here, homeschooling our kids, working from home, figuring it didn't really matter where we lived, our location didn't matter. We moved into this house that has a private Christian school closer to our house than the public school. Okay. We had no idea that it even existed. We had pulled our kids out of school during COVID and we decided that we weren't going to put them back in with things that were going on. And so to move here and find a school down the street that we were comfortable to put our kids into, it was like this. I was like, oh, God brought us here to give us the school. So like I can go back to working my business full time and not homeschooling full time. And I was like, this must be why he brought us here. And he was like, no, actually, I brought you there to give the school you. And so I ended up taking over and working at the school as the vice principal for a year and a half. And I was able to volunteer because God had given me a business that was providing for our family. Um, and and it was a calling that he put on my life. And I could have looked at that and said, I'm inadequate. I'm not the person. I've been out of education for 15 years. And but I was brought here for a reason. I was equipped for this good work. When I looked back at my life, it was like everything that I had ever done, my background in education and all of that, the fact that I was homeschooled myself growing up using a curriculum that the school used, there was so many different elements of it. I cannot even begin to explain, but I knew that that's what God was calling me to. And if he calls you to it, he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And so I had to just step into it and be like, okay, if this is what you have for me, I will do it. And so maybe there's an experience or a time in your life where you've experienced something like that too. And so we have to be open to knowing that there's a greater plan for us. Yeah, his plan is always better, even when we don't understand it in the moment. It's so true. So, um, how can we apply these truths that we know about ourselves? If we're wonderfully made, if we're meant to be bold and courageous, if we are equipped for every good work, everything that comes into our path, we're equipped to handle it. How can we practically go out and operate in that place? Okay. Speak up in meetings like this. Jump on when you're on a Zoom, when you're on a training, when you're in an atmosphere, maybe you're at a staff meeting, speak up. You have value to add, right? Share your thoughts. Maybe God's going to speak through you to someone else, and you just have to be bold to put it out there. So practice actively listening to people too, because that's where they're going to feel valued. And so that value exchange increases if you're someone who is kind and sensitive and listens to other people. Be the type of person who wants feedback, right? I think we all use that a lot. When I'm talking to people, I'm saying, I just would really love your opinion. Would you take a look at this for me? Would you tell me what you think? I don't want to tell you what to think, but I want to present you with information and hear your perspective on it. And maybe it's about how you handled a situation, even saying to someone, hey, can you give me your feedback? Like, did that come across okay? Did you hear my heart in that? Um, and we just need to seek out feedback. We need to celebrate our little wins. It can be easy to be daunted and defeated in a sense, or to feel like it's not a big deal. But when we celebrate every win with each other, that's really powerful too. So if you were to picture yourself being confident, what situations do you need to picture yourself being confident in? Is it closing a client? Is it leading a team? Is it how you inspire your kids? How you teach them a new skill in life with patience instead of, being short? What is that for you? It can be different for each one of us. But if you visualized how you would feel, it's like when we make a dream board. It's thinking about the emotion that you want to have when you have what it is that you think you want, right? Because we're not chasing the thing, we're chasing the freedom, the peace, the love, those emotions. That's really what we're chasing. So if we know that confidence is built through taking action and having a mindset shift, congratulations to you. You're in the right place. We're getting on track to figure ourselves out. And if we can start each day by speaking life over ourselves, right? I think I said the other day, like, try brushing your teeth with your opposite hand. Like, I'm right-handed, brush my teeth with my left hand and speak declarations over yourself while you do it. I am loved, I am capable, I am confident, I am influential, I am made to be a leader. Like, speak those things over yourself. Take courageous action every day to operate in that place of faith and not fear. Surround yourself with other people that have faith and not fear, or who choose to face the fear and overcome it, you know, and take time to actually journal and document the mindset shift that you're having, the experience that you're having, right? Journal about your progress. I am in the process of becoming blah, blah, blah. I am so thankful and grateful that, and write it down as if it's already happened. And so, again, if we think about that quote, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So, my challenge for you today would be, what is one action step that you can take? What's one thing that you're going to do today to build confidence in yourself or to operate in a place of confidence? Maybe just take a minute and write into the chat, I am confident, I am called, I am capable, I am unstoppable. Like, what is a truth statement that you can make about yourself today and how you're going to choose to operate? Yes, opinions matter. Everyone comes from different backgrounds. I believe we choose our experience in this lifetime. My son has mild special needs, and at one point I wondered why. After raising him in the best way possible and learning so much, um, I use all I learned to live and nurture my dance students who have special needs. See, like, God gave you an opportunity to grow your patience, right? You're in a situation that you have so much love, obviously, for your son, but you've learned to appreciate his differences and his challenges as beautiful parts of who he is. And so that's how you choose to look at other people too. So I can imagine that you would be such a blessing in that circumstance. I am beautiful. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Absolutely. We are capable to do everything we put our mind to. So I can lead the world. Yes, we are meant to be a light in this world, my friends. Truly, we are meant to have an impact. We need to be out there and be a light to the world, because people can follow Taylor Swift or whoever they look up to and admire. You know what I mean? But, like, you have so much more to offer. And if you just look at all the things you've been through in your life, the lessons that you've learned, the person that you've become, the value you have to add from that experience is priceless. So, does anybody have anything they want to share on this topic this morning? Any concepts you've been kind of thinking about as we've walked through this? Focus on who I'm becoming and focus on the value I can bring to others, not the value they bring to me. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Great takeaways. Yes, I love that. That's so funny. I have my son recite his daily affirmations. I am kind. I am brave. I am strong. I am smart. Mommy loves me. Daddy loves me. I love me. And Jesus loves me. Yes. Right. You got to concrete that in their minds and in your own mind. Right. It's like maybe you need to get up and say that to yourself too. I am a great mom. Yes. Yes, you are. I love it. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to add before we close this morning? And I would love if any of you ever feel called to share something. If you feel like there's a word on your heart or you want to take the lead and lead this call for a morning, you let me know because I think that you're here to help step into your leadership. And I want to encourage you to do that too and give you space to do that. You are so welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Thank you. I know God's got a plan for each of us, and I think that this call is meant to be a part of that. So, all right. Well, I will close us out this morning in prayer. So, Lord, I thank you for this beautiful day. I thank you for the sunshine streaming through the windows, and just spring is here. You know, we're just on the verge of this new season where new life is being crushed and pressured underneath the soil and about to spring forth. And so, I just thank you that that's happening in each and every one of us. If we choose to acknowledge it and we choose to accept it, you can be cultivating something new to grow in us that could just bring us a whole new season of harvest and a new season of life. So I pray that we'll just embrace these opportunities to grow and will allow the pressure to not crush us, but to excite us to know that we are about to step into a new season of new things in our life and new ways that you can use us. So I just thank you that you have a plan for us that is good. And I pray that you'll just reveal to us steps that we need to take today as we step out into today and bring people to our minds today, Lord, that we're meant to touch, whether it's just an encouraging word or a smile or an interaction on their social media, or to send them a private message and just speak a word that you're placing on our hearts. These thoughts aren't accidental. And so I just thank you that if there's someone you're bringing to our minds right now, that we'd get off this call and we would just speak life over them and reach out to them. And I thank you that you can use us in this way to make a difference in this world. So I just thank you for that and pray for peace and blessings as we step out into today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, ladies, have an amazing day and a great weekend. And we will see you back here on Monday morning. Love you guys.